Hi there, welcome back to Paris for another one of our live discussions. Today on LokadTV, we're going to be talking about promotions and the impact that they can have on forecasts. Promotions can be incredibly variable and difficult to predict. Do them right and they can vastly increase your sales. But do them wrong and they can reduce the credibility of your products and alienate your customer base into expecting vast reductions in price. Promotions often hit the headlines for all sorts of the wrong reasons. During Black Friday, customers can be seen fighting over cut-price products in department stores. However, these periods are undoubtedly important for the retailers, who often report massive increases in products. So Johannes, promotions are incredibly variable depending on the industry you're in. So to kick things off, perhaps you could sort of explain the companies that we're talking about here.
Yes, so indeed promotions comes in very, I would say, sort of flavors depending on your vertical. So it ranges from industries like luxury, let's say, that never do any promotion. I mean, you will not get a Rolex on sale. And from industries that do it like on a daily basis, as it happens, like for general merchandising, as in hypermarkets, where you will have probably daily promotions on things. Promotions can be about price. That's what you typically get in an hypermarket, where you buy two, you get one for free. But promotions also in e-commerce is about putting something forward. For example, if you send a newsletter to 500,000 subscribers to put forward a product, you will see a big increase in sales, even if you've not actually decreased the price of the product by even 1%. So indeed, it's the same word, but it reflects very, very different realities depending on the company you're talking to.
Okay, so they're generally going to be a pretty good thing because we're seeing normally an increase in sales. So why are they complicating things? Why is there a difficulty seen with promotions?
They really complicate because the things that you want to predict, if you want to optimize your supply chain, you want to predict future demand. And the problem is that you do not observe future demand or even past demand, you observe past sales. And the problem is that the sales are not the demand. The sales comes with all sorts of bias. If you don't have any stock left, you will have a stock out, so you have like zero sales, but demand is still there. And the promotions, it's basically just the opposite effect, is that you can see a lot more sales than you have actual demand. And for example, if you have a massive price drop, even if people don't need it right now, they will maybe start to build up their own stock at home with the product you're selling, just because they feel that, oh, it's a good opportunity, I should buy just to have my own little reserve because it's a nice opportunity. So the sales can give you a misguided sense of what the demand actually is. And nearly all supply chain practitioners know that they should not, just to apply a moving average on top of a promotions, because the promotion is going, is pushing the observed demand naively to the roof. But you will not say, okay, I'm going to sell more and more and more and more. You know that at the end of the promotion, sales will drop. So that's basically the very basic phenomenon that you need to take into account. Otherwise, your planning is going to be completely wrong.
Okay, so you sort of say there's a real misguided sense of demand. How are companies taking that into reality? How are they adjusting towards that?
So the traditional, I would say, supply chain method consists of, I would say, rewriting the sales history to mask the effect of promotions. So what most companies are doing, and I'm not saying that's the right thing, but that's what most companies are still doing nowadays. They will take their sales history, they will look at the promotional period, they will see the spike, and they will try to erase the spikes from their sales history. That way, when they apply something that is very akin to a moving average, the moving average is not overly biased by the promotion that just took place.
So what you're saying there is they're actually taking previous sales history and removing the spikes which have been seen by promotions. I mean, that sounds very dangerous, because then aren't you going to get sort of two versions of the truth? I mean, why are they actually doing this?
I mean, first, you're completely spot on. It is very dangerous, statistically speaking. Why? Because you replace historical sales data that is true, it did happen that way, with, I would say, mock data that you just made up. I mean, one way or another, but it's like made up data. This is not the reality. And then you're going to base your planning on some made up data. So yes, there is a real danger. It's a methodological danger, so that it's if your corrections are misguided, then your forecast will be built upon garbage inputs. So that's going to make the problem very, very acute in terms of supply chain planning. So why are people doing it at all? The answer is, if you look at the sort of technologies that most companies are still using for their supply chain optimization, it's basically glorified version of moving averages. It's like a moving average or a different moving average, and moving average goes by different names. I mean, exponential smoothing, it looks fancy, but it's moving average. Hot winters, well, it's moving average with a bit of cyclicity. And most ARIMA, moving average again. So most of those methods are just a tiny bit of cyclicity to deal with seasonality, and then the rest is just moving average. So that's why if all you have is a moving average, you need to make your historical sales compatible with the moving average, which is the only mathematical model that you happen to be that happens to be available for your company. But it's kind of it's probably a wrong perspective, because there is a lot more than just moving averages. I mean, we have better tech now.
But these like statistical methods, I mean, surely that's what a lot of these companies are basing their future decisions on. So do they actually work? I mean, they must be good enough if companies are using them all over the world.
The reality is that they are not really good enough. Most of our clients are, most of the companies who became our clients were actually telling us that one of the key motivation was to get better promotional forecast. So because it was a real problem for them. That typically what happens is that your moving average, I mean, it can cope, but it still cannot anticipate the uplift, so the effect of the promotion. So maybe it means that you will not have a forecast for the non-promotional time that is completely garbage because of the promotion, but you still don't have anything to actually cope with an upcoming promotion. So the moving average saves you a little bit, but it doesn't really address the problem at the core. It doesn't produce an actual promotion forecast. It just prevents the promotions from garbaging all the non-promotional forecasts on top. And by the way, this recipe is very weak, so it doesn't even work correctly, because it comes with a lot of problems. So clients come to us, but the reality is that having a better statistical model is a requirement, but it's not the only requirement. You have more requirements if you want to have good promotional forecasts.
So why are these companies so happy to kind of work with these moving averages? Why aren't they all changing? Why is it still sort of a problem that exists?
I believe that a moving average is something that any engineer can think of in like 2 hours. So simplicity is very powerful. I mean, you will end up reinventing in 2 hours a moving average and some sort of recipe to actually make your moving average work. So that's a very powerful force. And remember that like 80% of the worldwide, I mean, I'm just throwing this number, like it's just a guesstimation of the worldwide supply chains are still operating on top of Microsoft Excel. So a moving average on Excel is very, very easy to write. So that's probably the reason. Another reason is that if you want to do better, it's significantly harder. So suddenly you have to jump from moving average to machine learning. So you have to jump from a very, very simplistic method that anybody can understand to machine learning, which is a lot more complicated. You cannot have a machine learning algorithm that just works in 2 hours if you've never done machine learning before. And second, you also need to pay a lot of almost uncanny attention to the quality of data that you have about your promotions themselves. Because maybe you should describe, or we can venture into exactly how we can proceed with better methods. But the bottom line is that no matter any alternative to moving average will have to rely on a lot more data, and that makes the game a lot more difficult.
Okay, so if we're going to do things better, what sort of data should we be collecting? Should you be collecting the marketing efforts, the amount the price changes? What's actually of interest here?
So the company needs to collect everything that contributes to the promotional mechanics. So the price is one thing, yes, if you provide the price, but if you discount the price of a product and you don't tell anybody about your discount, nobody noticed except the people who were already having the intent of buying the product in the first place. So a promotion is never only about price, it's also about how do you spread the word, how do you make the market know that you have this. So in certain industries, like for example fashion, you have the end season sales. So everybody knows that those sales are going to happen and they even expect it. So that's a very specific type of sales, or a very specific type of promotions. But in some other domains, it's a completely different game. For example, in hypermarkets, it's not just about having a price drop. It's frequently about having a product move to the head of the gondola, the super premium placement that is at the end of the alley where the products are very, very visible. Even better, you put a big pile of the promoted products at the entrance of the store. So now you're doing a lot of things, to carry successfully your promotion. The question is, does your system, your ERP, properly keep track of all this data? And here is the catch. If you fail at properly keeping track of what you sell or what you purchase, the end game is your company go bankrupt. If you don't know what you're selling, if you don't know what you're buying, either customers steal on you or suppliers steal on you, both would result in the bankruptcy of your company, very literally. But if you get the date of your promotion wrong, you record that in your records, in your ERP records, the promotion is like 1 week off compared to what the real thing, it's not going to bankrupt your company. Nobody is ever going to notice. Even people who do internal audits, they're probably not even going to pay attention to that. But if you want to feed a machine learning algorithm that should forecast the promotion with incorrect data, it's going to go very, very poorly. It's not going to work. So you need a whole quality assurance process on the quality of your promotional data. And our own experience at Lokad is that it's a lot of efforts. It's literally, for most companies, it's literally months of effort to have very, very good historical promotional data.
Okay, so what you're sort of saying there is there's been a real evolution in the industry of, because it's not an important metric to measure, it's just an evolution of that'll do, basically. So it's something that's very difficult to measure. So say hypothetically, a company has measured all these things, they've got all that information there. Does that mean that through your forecast, you'll be able to tell us what promotions to do, when promotions work best? What sort of information would you be able to generate?
Yes. So first, the thing to understand is that instead of correcting the historical data, fundamentally a machine learning algorithm will look at it from the perspective that you have enriched historical data. So you don't try to tweak your sales. You're going to flag the periods where the product was, the sales were inflated, and the periods where they were probably censored. By the way, at the end of a promotion, if people have built up their own stockpile of goods, you might even see a drop, so you might even have a period of time where you know that you will have some kind of censored demand that is being observed. So you need to build up all this enrichment, and then you will be able. So that's first that will let you improve the quality of your forecast even for non-promotional period. So first, the first benefit that is kind of not obvious when people start to do promotion is to improve the quality of the forecast in the non-promotional period, because you have an algorithm that is better at apprehending what all those bias that you know about in your historical sales data. So that's the first thing.
So what you're saying there is you're using promotional data in times when non-promotional things are happening. I mean, that's supremely counterintuitive, no?
I mean, it's kind of counterintuitive, but it's not that much. I mean, when you think of it, just imagine, you have a super big promotion for, let's say, a variety of tomato. I mean, it's going to cannibalize the sales for all the other products that are non-promoted. I mean, it's kind of obvious that if you have like the promotion of the decade for one product, it's going to have massive cannibalization effect on all the products that happen to compete with this product. So promotions are, making forecasting more complex, but not just on the product that is being promoted. It makes the forecasting more complex for all the other non-promoted products as well. So it's maybe not that counterintuitive, but I agree, it's indirect and you have to think it through. So that I can agree. Then it comes to what about, okay, that's the first step. You can improve your baseline forecast, but you can also, if you know that a promotion is happening in the future, you can actually anticipate the uplift. How much extra sales we will get from this promotion. But then it comes to a question is, what is your process to decide about promotion that will happen in the future? And what is your process? How do you decide? And that's one part. And then second part of the process, and how do you make sure that your decision end up as an input of your forecasting engine? So because remember, this is not past data, it's like future anticipation on what you are about to do. So if you're about to do something, very important, very impacting for your supply chain, if you can tell the forecasting engine about it in advance, maybe a smart machine learning driven forecasting engine will be able to take advantage of that to reflect this important event that is about to happen in the forecast it's about to produce.
Yeah. Well, I'd definitely like to see what the promotion of the decade looks like. That sounds like an interesting topic. But in terms of the machine learning itself, how quickly can the machines actually learn what we're doing here? Because, I mean, it's an incredibly complex process. So how quickly could you expect to see results?
Yes, I mean, it's a game of statistics. It's a game of statistics, and it means that if you are doing one promotion a year, for one product, it's very, very hard to learn everything. I mean, the one thing that you have to keep in mind is that typically when you want to forecast promotions, it's not a game of forecasting a time series. It's not just you think of just the sales of this product and you're looking at the expected uplift or these sort of things, because one product in its own lifetime is maybe going to be promoted once, maybe twice, but it's not going to be promoted. I mean, most products never get promoted more than twice. I mean, it's very rare. Which means that if you want to know anything about the impact of a promotion, you need to look at what is the typical impact of a promotion under similar conditions defined by, a price discount, a promotional mechanics, certain communication channels. So it's all of that compute with that. And you look at what did happen in the past for products that were similar or promotional mechanics that were similar. So it depends fundamentally on how fast, depends on how many promotions are you carrying. So for example, for let's say in fashion industry, who is doing end of season promotions like at every season, you have a lot of data because it's happening like 4 times a year or 8 times a year every single year, and it has been happening forever. So you have literally tons of data. If you look at an hypermarket, they are every single point at every single day, they are basically having hundreds of products that are being promoted. So they have, and they rotate. It's not always the same products that are promoted. So it's something that is happening all the time. For e-commerce, it's typically you always have 1 or 2 products that happen to be on the front page of your e-commerce website. So you have a strong promotional mechanism that is happening all the time with that. But where it gets very, very difficult is when you start thinking about the fact that, because that's a question that typically our customer are asking, is say, yeah, your forecasting engine can maybe forecast the promotions, but what I really would like to do is to actually help me to decide what is the best promotion. And that's a completely different question, and that's a very, very difficult question.
Okay, so let's just say I'm not quite a CEO just yet, but I'm sure some of our viewers might be CEOs. So what's the process they should follow if they want to actually implement promotion forecasting into their organization?
So first, they need to collect all the data that are relevant. And when I say all, I would say things of primary importance. I'm not saying about collecting Twitter data or what people are saying on Facebook. I'm just saying, what is the list of products that gets promoted? What is the exact promotional mechanism? They probably have their own categories of buy two, get one for free, or is it a price drop in percentage, or is it any kind of with free shipping, for example? That can be a sort of promotion where you buy something, the price is the same, but you get shipment is free, all sort of variety of promotions. So first is to have all this quasi-transactional data. It's not transactional data because it doesn't appear in the invoices or the payments that you produce, but it's very well-specified data. You need to collect them and to have them part of your system. And you need to have a quality assurance process on top of that. So that's the first step. The second step is to really think it through of why do you do promotions? Why? What is the end game? And the problem is that it's typically a very different end game depending on your vertical. For example, in fashion, the goal is just to liquidate all your old inventory so that you can be always selling stuffs that are, up to date with the latest trend. You don't want to sell stuff that were out of fashion from last year just because you have leftover inventory. So that's the end game of your sales, is to make sure that your brand is always super trendy in fashion. If it's general merchandise, it's typically the promotions are typically not triggered by the retail network, but by their suppliers. So it's a negotiation between the retailer and the supplier to, for example, increase awareness for a new FMCG, fast-moving consumer goods. So a new flavor, for example, if you're selling boxes of cereal, you will have a new flavor, and you want to make the market aware of this new flavor, of the existence of your new product, and that's a way to capture market share. So the end games are very different, which means that when you want to assess exactly how you should execute, you need to think about what I would refer as the second order impact of your promotions. So you're trying to educate in a way, or influence your customers, and you should really think it through of exactly what kind of influence do you want to create on your customers, because you're in a way you are educating your customers to do something. For example, if you educate your customers to always buy your stuff cheap because they know instinctively that a promotion is always coming, looming ahead, then basically your customers will simply learn that, oh, why should I buy the full price? I just need to be a bit patient and I will get it for cheap. So it requires really strategic thinking, and you cannot have this strategic thinking happening after the machine learning. So that would be the process, would be really get it right, and then you can have a machine learning that is smart and capable of processing all these data that you collected and aligned with your strategic thinking. I mean, again, machine learning is just very mechanical, so it will not be able to have any kind of high-level strategy. You will have to do that.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'm afraid we're going to have to wrap things up there for today. But when you talk about educated customers, I'd probably count myself as one of the least educated customers there are out there. So that's all for this week. Cheers for watching, and we'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.